Hello, everyone. I wish you all a wonderful Sunday morning. Today is the third day of Marlborough Urban Forum. For the past 2 days, we have had the chance to listen to speakers on many subjects. And now we have the session Data, Data, Data. We can't make bricks without clay. We are going to be discussing data on open data connection. I would like to introduce to you our panelists, Erol Özgüner, Head of IT Department, İstanbul Metropolitan University, İlker Şahin, Head of IT Department, Balıkesir Metropolitan University, Bilal Eren, Chair, Open Data and Technology Association, and Hüseyin Can Önen, Board Member, Yer Çizenler Mapping for Everyone Association. My name is Samet Keskin. I am going to be the moderator of the panel. So, we are producing enough data to be able to be meaningful. We need to be able to process this data. When this is what we mean by the importance of data. Yes, data is important in itself, is valuable as well, but it is mostly valuable when it is processed. So instead of hiding data, we need to have everyone access to it and include it into an ecosystem. On this topic, I will leave the floor to my panelists. To Bilal Eren. We know that you are very active in this field, and you are as well providing literacy training on data and IT as well. Why is open data important? And on what are your activities in open data and technology? Can you enlighten us? Thank you. Hello to everyone. I wish you all a wonderful Sunday evening, to all the panelists who are joining us. It's very difficult to be the first speaker in a panel, actually. I don't know why you made me go first, but, it's difficult to make sort of an introduction to the topic. I hope it will be fun for everyone. The value of data, just like oil, you said, it's actually a little bit more scandalous in that sense, because, it must be something different about it, because what you call oil is something that you can just store into a car and take somewhere else. But, as a business model, when you think of data, it's not exactly the same thing. Whereas oil can be used only once and it is gone, data can be used maybe once, 10 times, 100 times. It's processed over and over again. It represents who we are, what we do, our hopes, our aspirations, our joys, our fears. So I think it's quite insufficient to compare data to oil. I think it's even more valuable than oil because it can be used and reused and reused. So that was my political introduction to the topic on this Sunday morning. When we talk about open data, there's a definition, of course, for open data in the literature, which is accepted by all. Within a conceptual framework, and it says data which does not have any copyright, not patented, which can be used freely by everyone and reused by everyone, and can be distributed as wished. So this is, so to say, the definition or conceptual framework of open data. There are two main aspects to this. One is the principle of openness in terms of legal regulations. There are it should not be contested in any framework, and it should be open to access to everyone, and an open license is one of the principles for legal openness. And the second pillar is the technical openness. So both are important, but the technical openness is for us extremely significant. There's data everywhere, especially in public. Many fields, a lot of data is collected, but these are not in the form that can be processed by machines, but it is not in the form that can be accessed in electronic formats that are sustainable and reusable. So technical openness is something which needs to meet these criteria with no firewalls and open server. Accessibility are important aspects of this technical issues, and we know that our municipalities are in the panel are pioneers in this field, being role models for Turkey. So, this open data has three different aspects. And this is public data and individual data, and as well as social data. So I can give you some examples within this about this after this conceptual framework. So what could be included in open data? What comes top of mind? For example, health data, data of access of civilians to first aid in times of disasters and in emergency cases, the transparency of public spending, weather, energy efficiency documents, utilization of water resources document, educational data. If we see, for example, the achievements of our children in school, parliamentary documentation, and, for example, locations of transportation vehicles or accidents, data of accidents, and also traffic data. I'm very cross about that, by the way. I can never get the right data. And, for example, hospital data. So this is sort of the introduction I can make. We want to go a Q&A after this? I think you can continue until now. Okay, I will continue about the principles of open data. So what will be the good of it when we open data, so to say? There's, of course, an ongoing debate on this, of course. And there is the overarching idea that open data is a public tool. And just as the public bodies are charged with and responsible for public services, the data that is collected by public bodies need to be also opened up and transparent towards the public. For example, if the municipalities, so to say, or the government has responsibilities of a public service of hospitals, then the data on those hospitals should also be open to public in a format digitalized, which can be accessed by all. It could be beneficial or not. That's something else. So each and every individual that has access to open data does not have to benefit from it like in a research or something. This is just for pure transparency, pure access for data, just for inclusion, participation. This is actually a responsibility of the governments. I think you might consider it an extreme point of view, but in Europe, in the UK, there is a certain culture and philosophy built around this, that the fact that open data is a public data, and it ensures transparency, inclusion, participation, efficiency. And I believe this is something which is quite often discussed in the panels. Also, the government policies and feedback and control and supervision on these policies is made possible through this open data. And there are also some examples on innovation through this transparency of open data are made possible. Like I said, this needs to be based on a certain culture, a certain philosophy, and unfortunately, until today, 92% of data, this is the most recent figures that I have, there is a worldwide NGO open data barometer, and according to their research, 92% of public data is still not open worldwide, and we are testing openness of data, for example, for contemporary reason towards throughout the pandemic period, the COVID data are being opened or not being so opened, restricted openness is the policy of some governments the moment, and then in the medical field. The experts can see how limited actually the data, which is actually open, is, and in this in turn causes a lack of sufficient data. Which in turn causes lack of access to this data by the scientists, and therefore it impedes the ability of the medical world to fight and struggle against the virus because of this lack of data. So when you don't open up the data, and then people are still going to believe that coronavirus is emitted through 5G stations, and that the satellites can cause wildfires. So this is they're very sincere in their beliefs just because they don't have the data, and they can very easily become anti-vaccine, and all these sentiments can rise very high in the public. I know this is turned into a debate area, but I think this is important to illustrate how important open data is, because it's very clear in the conflicting world that we live in today. So maybe this misinformation cannot be remedied or verified or clarified in the whole world because of this lack of open data. And people do not trust their own ministries, our health ministries, our education ministries. I'm not just talking about Turkey. I'm talking about all different countries in the world. We are experiencing overall in the world such cases. If the ministry would share all the data in a readable format and present it to everyone without any fees or create any restrictions for utilization, and provide the necessary infrastructure to utilize this data, I also personally believe very sincerely that it will be most beneficial for a better society, a better country, a better individual, and this is our common view as NGOs in that sense. And there's also an economical side to this as well. So there are economic benefits as well, economical benefits. The EU has an annual report on open data, which is accessible in an unrestricted manner. And 17 billion euros was the amount of saving from open data applications. And this is, of course, not including additional benefits like employment or diplomatic or democratic participation, transparency, feedback, and inclusion. So this was just purely the economical benefits of open data. In 2019, I think, was the 80,000 people were employed in public services on open data. So that was one of the side benefits. Non-financial benefits, so to say. So I can very clearly say that the publication of open data, of open public data, is so beneficial. So I don't want to just exceed my time. I know we have other panelists, and we have even practical data, which is even more valuable than theoretical data, especially for the municipalities. I believe we should leave the floor to them. Thank you very much. I know it's difficult to go first, but you have established a wonderful framework. And of course, just like there are tiers to data, there are tiers to other processes and social life. I think we should go up to another tier of maybe data-driven society. Thank you very much.
Erol, I would like to go on with you now, because you basically manage the data of 16 million people as Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. You have a great project, a huge project in this, and in fact, you had an infrastructure project about this, and in terms of smart cities, actually in 2020 and 2021, you got an award for your efforts. And also, I guess everyone knows about the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality Open Data Platform. And apart from those, what are the projects and activities of the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality in terms of data, and what should we expect in the future? So, hello everyone. I hope you all a great Sunday, and thank you so much to Bilal Bey as well. He left at a great point. So I again wish you all a great Sunday. Yes, we say data, data, data, as the title indicates. And Bilal Bey talked about this to a great extent to make us understand how important the sharing of public data is. And we should be able to go one step further, and that is, yes, to be able to collect the data is incredibly important, because when you can't do that, yes, you can open your data to access, but you can have some damages after that. So you have to be able to manage that within a system. And in the beginning, we said the new oil is data. But as it was mentioned before, oil has leakage, as you know, and we should prevent leakage, and we should focus on projects and activities of cybersecurity. We should not disregard them. But yes, so first of all, you must be able to manage and also collect data. Yes, we have a very big platform for this, which we have constructed ourselves. We have constructed our own data link, and Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality has 31 different subsidiaries, and we are getting data from there, and also we are creating a data pool, but then we should be able to interpret and process and then individualize and diversify this set of data. As such, yes, creating a pool of data is very important, but then what we call master data, like individual data of citizens, are transactional data, as we call them, like the usage of Istanbul transportation card, and also maybe the water bill or the other utility bills. So these repeating data, we must be able to include them next to the master data so that we can thoroughly manage these sets of data. And then after being able to interpret them, you can actually put in the analytics work, and then the machine learning and AI works. When they are included as well, you can get up to date with the current worldwide standards. That was the roadmap, actually. And in 2021, with the AI and machine learning and also cybersecurity networks, we are trying to we are getting close to a more predictive and beneficial line of data. And now I would like to share some figures and data with you, actually, and I'm sure some of them will be shocking. Istanbul, of course, I will have to talk about Istanbul. But then I will try to, maybe you could interpret some of this for Turkey as well. So this is the biggest economy of Turkey, and also this has a bigger economy than 130 countries, and with 16 million people, and with 14 million internet users. So almost all of the population is on the internet, uses internet actively. As you know, Murphy's Law always indicates something should go wrong right about now. So, yes, I'm sharing the open data portal datas. And now, in the January of last year, after we came up with the platform, just like Bilal Bey has said, due to reasons as he has mentioned, the public data, especially with the startups, researchers, scientists, etc., we thought that it should be shared with them, and that's why through the link of data.ibb.gov.tr, you can actually go to the platform, and we went over 100, the figure of 100, and in about 9 months we have a total access of 28.5 million, and this actually makes us very happy because each month we have visitors who get on the site at least 50 times. We would think that they are trying to stay up to date, and the mobile applications, some dashboards, some software, and also insights came to us. We are also processing these feedbacks, evaluating these feedbacks so that they can be helpful in our future works. And when we look at the average daily reach, it's almost about 50,000. This is very important. And we, with Ekrem İmamoğlu, with our mayor, we sometimes say, yes, we have those visitors who come to physical places and also these digital places, and to be able to listen and understand their needs and demands in the fastest way possible. This is a very viable platform. So we have a reachable space, and not only from Istanbul or Turkey, but people all around the world actually go to this virtual place. And we always say there is almost a population of 16 million in population in Istanbul, but actually it's 15 million point 66. But we have we have citizens over the age of 65. About 1 million of them are in Istanbul, and about almost 200,000 of them live alone. So before the as you know, with this during the starting period of the pandemic, during the lockdowns, those who were over 65 had restrictions about going out, going on the streets, but you can actually do this if they are living alone. So we know what to do and who to help in this case. This is very valuable in this. And the male and female populations are about parallel, similar. This is how it has always been over the years. And both of them are almost 8 million, as you can see. And Blalbe has mentioned this, but about roads and the effects on the roads. We have about 95,000 kilometers of roads, and there are 2.5 million different doors, and there are other relevant data about Istanbul here as well. And those who come from outside, the city that migrates to Istanbul the most is Sivas. So in actually 11 different districts, we see people from Sivas heavily populate these areas, and people from Tokat as well, and from Giresun, Ordu, Kastamonu. So we can say that there are people from all around Turkey, and we look at this these sets of data as well to see where the certain demographics populate the parts of the city. And this is district-based population density map. And right now, Esenyurt, Küçükçekmece, and Bağcılar in order are the most heavily populated districts. And Esenyurt, of course, had some migrations due to different reasons, and we are considering those while we evaluate this set of data. But still, it's very important. And we have our own dashboards from the data we collect and process. For example, yesterday there was a temperature of 19 degrees Celsius, and also yesterday there was a traffic congestion of about 53%, and the dams they were full to 51%, and in September there were 295 car accidents. And also we have a fiber internet infrastructure of 1.8 thousand kilometers, and the total number of buildings is about 1,400,000. So these are data about Istanbul that we can find, and these are very important, especially. So we have doors of about 2.4 million, and we have already talked about the number of districts and provinces, and also the midline, the mid intersection road numbers is about 360,000. And about the level of education, when we look at the district, we go in terms of the population average, and then we we check whether or not they had done any master's or PhD studies, and then we look at whether or not they had maybe high school or undergraduate studies, and the district that is the highest in this sense is Kadıköy. And about literacy in Istanbul, we have almost 230,000 people not knowing how to read or write, and we are trying to get them into relevant courses and training programs. And those who graduated, the total number of those who graduated from high schools or vocational high schools is about 2.5 million, and the total number of PhD graduates is about 55,000. So these are about, as you know, the education level, and we have an Istanbul card that is used in transportation and sometimes during shopping. So we get that. We go through these as well. This card, which is there in people's pockets or on people's phones, and we see especially those who are students or who are taking education are especially interested in using this, and most males use this. And in terms of district, it is seeing use most first and foremost in Ümraniye. These are interesting sets of data. And we also inspected that a residents, actually all the people there had owned an Istanbul card. So such kind of interesting data can come up. And the devices we call the devices that people use to get on public transportation, we actually can see where people get on a public transportation device, but we cannot see where they got off it. But this is still very important for planning in terms of transportation and other projects. And in Istanbul Halk Bread Services, there was actually a mention of projects going in line with the distribution, the allocation of the population. This is very important for us because when people go out to buy something, the average for them, the acceptable average rate for them is about 500 meters, but Istanbul Halk Bread Services actually serve 6 million people, so they take a very important place in these services. And these, the population, the people who live in areas that are not close to those services, we see the map through these sets of data, and then we will get an infrastructure. We have a data center about this called IBIS, and actually for construction certificates and excavation certificates, we are collecting data about this, which will be accessible to citizens soon, so that they can see that without their permission or nothing happens in terms of evacuation or construction, or they would be informed about any excavations or constructions. And also this 500 meters criteria all over Istanbul, when we look at the evaluations, almost 98% of the population can reach a public transport. And in what we call the rural areas of Istanbul, or maybe in some of the islands of Istanbul, we see some problems with in terms of access to public transportation. So this is what we evaluate in our inner evaluations. And as you know, the starting day for schools in Turkey is usually very problematic in terms of traffic. So when you look at the traffic data there, it is the highest in terms of anomalies in numbers. And like I said before, we have a pool of data and we are interpreting data there, and we are adding analytics there as well. And the 100 road mainway, this is a study on that, and this is between Tuzla and Silivri, so you should not be shocked by the numbers. And about 98% correction of predictions. We really predicted this anomaly because, as you know, during the pandemic, one of the most important issues is the high density of people, high number of people in public transportation for all municipalities and all around. So if you can get all of this data in one place and you can look at all of these from one place, you can do the necessary plannings and managing processes. And this, we have been looking at it for 1 year. We have been trying to gather the data pool regarding all people. This is not individualized data. This is actually about 16 million people and all of them and all of their transportation habits. And I can say that we will be getting even more accurate data, I think. And through these sets of data, we will be planning and actualizing our transportation projects in Istanbul. Of course, when transportation planning comes into the picture, you will have to be able to plan according to the benefits of all users, like car drivers, car users, or other people. Maybe you can use Spark to actually park your car, and through that you can get to where you want in less time. And Spark is actually a an associated company of ours, and through it we have been implementing an application used Park and Ride, which has been seeing global use, and we see that it will get even more popular in Istanbul over time. Of course, not everything comes back to metro bus in terms of transportation. We have now scooters and also bicycles. In e-bikes we have about 350,000 users, and we have seen a very steep rise in the last 5 years, and this has very important benefits and contributions to the reduction of carbon emissions. And Istanbul, as you know, is one of the most important cities, and there should be more planning in terms of bicycle ways, and there should be roads exclusive for bicycle users. Now I will stop my sharing. In general, I can say that I don't know, by the way, how much time I have spent, but I would like to highlight that when you become able to manage all of your data from one place through the correct algorithms or questions, if you are able to create the series of processes that will lead you to the correct assumptions or the correct implementations, then this data science begins to give you results, and then after that comes the accuracy part. So if you can go over 90%, maybe 95, 96, 97%, and if possible 100%, even though that is not all that possible, because as you know, sometimes we decide on which road we will take through Google when we leave our houses, or other platforms help us there. So when in this area, you must be you must be trying to get to a point where you can interpret this data and do these predictions as accurately as possible. And I would like to end my speech on a high note today. We really work and put so much effort into data processing, and in a Senate as well. We have a lab. We are constructing a lab about 1,200 kilometers squares for everyone to access, for all data enthusiasts. And we are trying to involve the city, the citizens of this city, all those who would like to enrich this city with data management and processing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Erol Bey. And such a Sunday morning, you have made many great contributions. Thank you so much for all the data about Istanbul. And we are also very excited about your project.
So for the next presentation, we're going to host İlker, Balıkesir, from the municipality of Balıkesir, which is a crown jewel of a city among the municipalities. And you are pioneering and paving the path to on open data for other municipalities, and your data is also increasing. So what are your activities on the Balıkesir Metropolitan Municipality on IT and open data? What can we expect? Hello, everyone. I am here with you again, and I'm very happy to be a part of this wonderful event. And all of our colleagues and the officials that we see in these events creates an ecosystem of its own where we share and learn from each other as well, just like the example from Istanbul. And it's clear, the more you control data, the more you can talk to numbers and figures, the easier you can manage the city itself. And in our own scale of our city in Balıkesir, this is what we strive for, to work with figures, with visuals, with dashboards, to be able to manage life cycle in the city in a more specific and data-driven manner. So I would like to point out, talk a little bit about the establishment of the Open Data Center in the Balıkesir municipality. This open data is transparency, accountability. All these definitions and concepts can be manifest that also cause an advantage in municipalities, but it is also something which is specific to each geography. Balıkesir has 20 districts and more than 1,000 neighborhoods, but the districts are quite distanced from each other. In Balıkesir, there's 30 kilometers between two different districts somehow. So for us, our own know-how and our own data-driven management style to be established, we had to have this open data. So therefore, since 2005, I started working for the local governments after my graduation from physics, and until 2019, I spent a lot of time with IT. So we have seen in that time three main management styles in the municipalities. One is the MIS, the management and information systems, all the calculations and accounting and HR and all the data that is produced from that. And then there is a system that also which called GOS side, which is actually mapping and tiering this data that comes from these. And then you need this leads to the CRM, which is actually regulating the communication between the communications. It's not CRM, but you have to see the customer as the individuals and the citizens. So, and all the tool that actually comprises of all this process is the BI side, the business information side. So in Balıkesir municipality, we wanted to see how much data we had and to work with it. And we looked at the requests, complaints, and we saw that we had 1 million data analyzed and mined with BI and created workloads and 14 years ago, we saw that there was an endless concepts of, roads, pollution. So what's interesting here is this: when you create an ecosystem between the citizens and the municipality through a system like CRM, you reach out to the citizens and you create pathways for citizens to reach out to municipality. But when you look at it, you see in time that the problems still continue. But of course, this continuation should be maybe seen as such. Is rather than being late in responding to these complaints, this is also directly correlated with the increase in the tools of technology accessible to the individuals as well. For example, in the technology 14 years ago, you had these white information desks for complaints and requests, and that led to an interactive municipality, online municipality, social media platforms. So you have a lot of platforms that you introduce for this communication with the individuals, with the citizens. That means the more of the problems come to light and the more they can relay their problems to you. So this is a direct correlation between the platforms available for the citizens to relay their complaints and data. So we have to be very quick in our collection of data. So we have to have, smart cities directorate, and I have to talk about open data in Balıkesir. So in a city like Balıkesir, we need to have platforms where we talk about data, where we debate data, where we raise awareness about data. So the open data platform was the best platform we could use for that. So this is something which evolved into a whole new level in local governments with the citizens, with students, with decision makers, with NGOs. We started talking about data and open data to all of these parties. And if you call it a tactic, it worked. That tactic worked. And we started to be able to truly communicate the importance of open data. That was the beginning of our story. And so after the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, we were among the first municipalities who founded the open data platform in 2020. So our directorates are actually sharing all the data they produce with us. And they're also quite keen on it as well, because, it's all very spontaneous. Everyone is keen on this. Everyone's taking their actions in their own directorates, in their own offices, and in the field, everything is very result-oriented. But, they always say, let's record this, let's analyze it later for future forecasts. So that's what we always said to them, all to the offices of the actions in the fields. We ask them to record everything, to register everything that they do. And they are doing that. They're keen on this. And we are presenting all of this data on the open data platform. We're also launching all of the activities also that as we're undertaking as a municipality in this open data platform as well. So it is a quite source of strength for us. We have had 53 data sets since we were established, and we have open data licensed presentations, and we can see, for example, 1 million, 1.5 million in that sense transactions that our visitors. A number of our visitors are actually a source of pride for us. In that sense, we work with young people, with students. We have visitors, residents of the central areas, which are repeat users and visitors. We also want to share the data of other institutions and organizations in Balıkesir also on this platform. So, of course, we're maybe 1/10 of the whole population of Istanbul. So after seeing all the data of Erol, I want to say that that's our scale, but the horizon is very wide because all of that data is actually going to be the major factor that determines the future for us, our dreams, our aspirations, and our actions in the future. So in our own directorate, in our own office, we want to plan and schedule until 2025 what we want to do, the demographic analyses, and we already have ongoing local analysis, but we want to broaden the scope. And you also asked us what can we expect for the future. From the future, I can say that we have, I think, a very positive future about this topic, because we're talking about data everywhere, and local governments are truly unique in that sense. You know, the municipality is responsible. Everything that you see in a certain region, from the pavements to trees to the humans to constructions, buildings, anything and everything that involves the life in that region. So we have to be very practical to be able to offer some comfort. So we need to share data, reuse data, and I believe this will be very beneficial in determining the strategy of the city. And another topic has to do with the privacy laws, the protection of private data. This is a very strong subject lately, and I believe this is one of the factors that we have to be very keen about in the future. And Bilal talked about this as well. Mobile platforms are registering our entire timelines throughout the day and analyze our habits, and they're going to go into even more private levels of our lives. I'm sure we're going to be faced with that data, and we're going to have security issues, verification issues, and maybe risks on those topics as well. Maybe Vural projects is among this. That blockchain is a concept that we're going to be faced with in the near future. And so I think I have exceeded my time a little bit, or at least I've come to the end of it. Thank you. Thank you very much, İlker, for your comments.
And just like Erol Bey has said, and you have said as well, transportation is really important. I guess Erol Bey has talked about 77 different sets of data, and when you started this journey, you said that the most important deciding factor was transportation, and transportation is a very big responsibility for all of our cities, and which sometimes poses a problem that should be solved. And in the solving of these problems, I think from both your presentation and from the presentation of Erol Bey, we see some great ideas and implementations being put to use. So this example of this example and this comments, the suggestions of yes, let's do this way and that way, I think these are incredibly beneficial. So I would like to give the floor to Can Bey now, because as you know, the production of data is incredibly important as well. And we know that you have some very big projects and activities in this area, and especially in scenes of disasters. And can we talk about your evaluations and insights on the processing of open data and its statute in terms of accountability? Yes, of course. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all of you for inviting me here. Bilal Bey, Erol Bey, İlker Bey, thank you so much for your presentations. And I would like to now actually poke the bee's nest, because yes, we are discussing open data, but we didn't discuss what it truly is. Bilal Bey has said some very important, shared some very important remarks during his introduction. Ilhan Bey said some very important things which I agreed with. So data belongs to everyone, he said. The community actually unconditionally should have the right to access data which is created through their use. I agree, yes. And in the US and other countries as well, we see some federal funds, federally funded projects and some state-funded projects. They say all the data, all the results will be completely publicly accessible. And there are some military projects or maybe some projects about their national defenses. So these are some security issues nationwide on the background. But the discussion there, the topic there is that these are done with federal funds as well, so I should be able to access them. People claim this. And the region we live in, the city we live in, the district we live in, the data about those should be accessible by us. I think as it is one of the most basic rights of ours. And there are some actually special aspects like map data and also geographical data. In 2017, we were established in the month of July and in humanitarian, and also we would also seek out to aid support the open use of data in geography, in geographical data, and we had computer scientists and engineers and also other people. So through open use, we are producing, processing, developing, and sharing open data through open source systems. And we're also promoting it, I must add. We talked about the definition of open data, so I don't want to talk about that all that much. And through this link, maybe you would like to see the definition of open data. What is free data? You can see there. What is free data? How would it be shared? And how is it licensed? This is something shared by the Open Knowledge Foundation. And Open Knowledge Foundation, they actually came up with a guideline on what free data is and how it should be shared. But we should also talk about what open data is not, because we are slowly coming to recognize what it is in Turkey. We are slowly starting to realize its value, its importance. So it does not only mean to be able to see the data and also to question it or interpret it. A few years ago, some municipalities or local governments used to say, "Oh yes, I am sharing this open data. I have this platform, and you can reach all the data through that platform." They used to say this, but what I could do with it was only being able to see it on my screen. So can I do any further analysis with this data, or can I use it in my research, in my line of work, etc.? No, I cannot. So being able to see the data only does not mean a true interpretation or truly sharing the data, truly making it open. So it's not true to call it open data all that much, but this perception is still going on, and some cities or some municipalities are still claiming that they are working through an open data platform, and they are actually providing selective access to this data. They say, "Oh yes, if you only went to this unit of ours or this department of ours, we would share, maybe we would consider sharing this set of data with you." So this is not open data at all either. I mean, no kind of encryption, no kind of authenticized login processes. I should be able to use this data in my line of work or in my research without doing any of those. So this is like, yes, this is like saying, yes, I'm giving you this information, but you can only cite this in your scientific research or your paper. Do not use it commercially ever. This does not actually constitute a sharing of open data either. So I should be able, if I am able to access this data without any further conditions or any restrictions, maybe you could say, okay, this belongs to this and this municipality, so please use it by citing or by referencing those municipalities. Maybe you can open it to access that way. So certain layers are certain scopes. Maybe they could be taken out. Maybe some basic information could be included, preserved. But for these sets of data to be open, to be accessible for others, maybe through them to be able to come up with different implementations and applications and implementations. In both the examples of Balıkesir in Istanbul, we see this. An API, maybe you can drive an API out of these applications, so you can see a lot of different visions, a lot of different plans and projects coming out. So not only within the institution, but from outside parties as well, some things can come up, some results can show up. So restricting the use and the usage of these sets of data, this is actually maybe restricting this in terms of where the citizens live, etc. This would only be about borders and geometry or geographical data. So let's say I want to get data on the district borders of the city I live in, and the data on them are sold for 20,000 Turkish liras, and this is, I think they should be ashamed for this. I mean, let's say I just want to go and do a project or a graphic or an infographic on the city or the district I live in. So what should I do then? So someone who is very actually who is in the Marmara region, a data provider in the Marmara region, said something along those lines to me. So the phone number, these are not informations about the phone number of the residential manager or the muhtar of the province. There are some very basic information groups which are sold for 20 to 30,000 Turkish liras, and this actually saddens me so much. Maybe this also has to do with our habits, because in Turkey, as you know, we see positions of power, positions of authority as incredibly important things. We reflect them in a different light than civil people. And when we look at these institutions, we and these data providers as well, we expect a certain level of professionalism from them. And there are also a lot of perceptions about how, false perceptions about how data is managed and shared and conducted. So sometimes the companies that are holding on to their data and use it and sell it for the highest bidder uh, are actually seen as the best companies, as the most professional ones. But actually, the participation, this social society's participation is very important in this point. So opening a data set, a data pool to public access through a platform, yes, that is a good thing, but there's also this potential put forward, are this untapped potential of the society, and this crowdsourcing, maybe some hackathons or through some competitions, you can actually uh, give way to new ideas and new opportunities about open data. So we should also consider the participation of the people, and as a result they can participate and contribute to the enrichment of this set of data and this data pool. And in the last 2 or 3 decades, this culture of helping each other, helping your fellow citizen. So this culture of fellow citizens coming together and sharing their resources to help one another And open source culture, open data culture, this is actually, I think, the reflection of the imece culture in Turkey upon a digital platform. And on a bit, let's say, the one that actually gives the lowest bit, or the one who doesn't share its data. I'm not talking about those kind of people. Maybe a great the father of a great idea could be someone who's just working from their homes. I mean, they will not seem all that professional about data, but maybe individually they have a project, an activity that will be much more valuable than any institutions. And the citizen science. Citizen science and also citizens as sensors, these are being talked about in a lot of different articles and also conferences. There is this citizen group coming together, and they are sharing both nationally and internationally about their research. So the more the data is accessible to for the use of the citizens, the more creative ideas the more creative the ideas will get. And the GI, the volunteership-based geographical information. This is an environment. This is actually an environment in which we try to promote the activities in this area through collaboration, and citizens as sensors. They are promoting the community and the members of the community as data gatherers and collectors. And in the center of this, there is this open street map, a worldwide open map, OSM. And in 2004, by Steve Cost, a student of computer science, he comes up with a online database that is used with the world, and now millions of people use it every day. So if each person could actually map out where they live, and maybe the front porch of their houses, let's say, it works through that volunteership-based approach. And in 2010, this map used to include much more than just bicycle roads. This was truly an open geographical database. And in the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, the local governments there, they did not have any digital infrastructures, etc. And Google's mobile map providing services, because they were commercialized, they did not have any information, they did not have any maps of the region. And by pressuring the company to get open satellite images, they actually managed to, within the period of 2 weeks, through satellite viewings, images, and I guess 450 people gathered at that time to help in the this global disaster. And the capital of Haiti, Port-au-Prince, they get the satellite image of it thoroughly, and then they go to, let's say, local governments, and they do an even more detailed data study on site. So is did this building collapse, or where are the hospitals, where were the schools, etc. So these enrichment and also authentication and kind of confirmation works were carried out, and in about 2 weeks to, I guess, 2 months, there was an openly accessible map for everyone in the region. And in a community like this, in a disaster or in other emergencies, such a community can provide great insight and great benefits. And this humanitarian group in the last decade, in the last 11 years, they are working with such kind of civil society organizations, and they are creating partnerships with local governments, and in local regions they are enriching the community that would keep the flow and the flux of data in those regions, and they are working to create such a healthy ecosystem. And we too, after the earthquake in Izmir last year, did a similar project in Turkey. And within the Izmir coordination unit, there were different job groups and representatives of the job groups, and there was an organization with their collaboration. And within the Izmir earthquake response, there were different data providing works and also different inspection processes done by the municipality. Maybe people couldn't access them. These professionals, these vocational groups, and they wanted to actually be involved and help on site maybe, but this flow of data could not be established. And at that point, we said, yes, with the road street maps and also with our other experiences and similar projects, we would like to carry out a data work here, a data study here. And they said, of course, we would like to help you with that. And with the remote inspection center, we got satellite images, and the up-to-date images were shared with us. And through the OpenStreetMap, we started to implement an updating process of Izmir's roads and buildings. And we started to inspect and detect damaged buildings, etc. And there was gathered a citizenship found, a citizen found, and if people could prove through photos that there were some damages in their buildings or their real estate, they would be granted help, and more than 1,400 responses were given, and about 500 to 600 damaged buildings were detected. And people said yes. So if you could please send an expert or an engineer to inspect this, etc. And through the weeks, the engineers volunteered to conduct the inspection of these buildings. And the Chamber of Civil Engineers, and also with their collaboration of the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, they started to determine the costs, and there was also a field of distrust, I must admit, and also the engineers said the cost inspection we did actually is in line with 90 to 95% with the inspection of the ministry. And as such, we confirm that these projects are true. So this two-way confirmation was achieved, and this was all done through the joint efforts of the civil society and the institutions. So this is not only after disasters anymore. This can also be done before disasters to actually plan and better manage the processes before. There are a lot of different tools and resources. We do not have to do anything with our pencils and pens or on our papers. We can use open source methods, and maybe we can see, okay, what could the citizens do individually, if an earthquake were to happen in this area, we can see some street image from an earthquake site, and from a flooded area, and people are working together with both the employees of the institutions and also with the citizens, and we can actually get these images with phones and with these pictures or with maybe our computers. So this does not belong to any company. This is completely open source, and this is completely open to the access of all users. And as I finish my speech, I would once again like to highlight the importance of participation. We cannot just provide access to this data for the general society, for the general populace. We must also try to include them in the gathering and collection of this data. And this was after the Izmir earthquake. This was got from the reports I had mentioned. So this indicates data about each and every one of the districts, and with these 1,300 reports and notifications were sent from these areas, and these are the highly damaged areas and populated areas. Thank you so much. Yes, I spoke for a bit too long and maybe a bit too complex, and please forgive me for that, but maybe I will give the floor to you now, so maybe you can go on with the Q&A session. Thank you so much, Can Bey. And as you have said before, all these funds that need to be open and these data that need to be open to public access, they are very important, I agree. And for all this data to be made publicly accessible, I guess EU has a lot of projects about that. They are coming up with a system for that. And the citizen unit is very important in these as well, because we must be able to create a certain level of awareness so that a certain level of demand can be achieved by the citizens. And I really hope that, and I am really sure that our municipalities will be able to support such projects and such activities, and will get great outcomes. We have a lot of good questions, and I will try to select a few of them. İlker and Erol Bey, so in this open data platform, what kind of data do people try to reach out to most? So people mentioned they could not actually access data about migration, etc. So what would be your remarks about that?
I'll, for example, give you an example about where I agree with the previous speakers. When we carry out analyses on BI, the most challenging part is to reach the neighborhood tiers. So this is the open source BI, which is called ClickSAS, for example, to name names. And there you can have visualizations. So I wanted to have some mapping-based analysis for KPIs, the density areas and populationally dense areas. But we could not reach out the neighborhood tiers and scales, so we had to do it manually for the municipality. But we can open that up to you so that you can use this time. So I would like to say we do have access to such information, but I have to say, as Erol was talking about Istanbul, but we are also connected to them through the main ways. We know that there are some major traffic hubs in Istanbul through the highways, and so that's not the case with Balıkesir. We have 1.5 million. It goes up to 3.5 million in the summer. But basically, we live in the central district. We have two main districts with a population of 300,000 or 400,000, and we have one main street, one main avenue, and then the secondary line. So we have significant demands for a master plan, but they also want from us image processing. So we have we have had this request from this demand from especially students there wanted to have image processing, and this was actually a vision for us as well. We are managing about 2,000 cameras for as a municipality, so we need to have a technology to manage them as well. So with the new methodologies that we will acquire, we have a plan to put in secondary cameras to some main areas, and we are opening them up to the public as well. And we also have carried out a few interesting transactions of our own. I have taken notes during the speeches. We have about 6,800 kilometers of roads as well, and about 23,000 streets in Balıkesir. The demands have to do with the waterworks institutions, with the excavations, with digs, and the unevenness and disleveled roads. And we have a team there, the IT team, that is developing sensors on POCs. And what we plan to do is to place on the buses, the ring and route buses, between the axle of the vehicle and the bus floor. We have developed a device to send data to record uneven surfaces in the road. So we are carrying out such projects together with the young people as well. We have another research R&D center under the title NEON that we have established, started its announcements and activities as well. So I would say at this point that the perspectives of people, of students, the evolution of all that, it's something that no one even talks about. There is such a difference between the perspective of the people and the perspective of the municipalities. It's wonderful to be able to harmonize them and to communicate. So that's all I want to say about that. Thank you very much. I also want to make a few comments about John's words. As he's right, but also then on the other side there is the public and regulation and legislation side. We're talking about geographical data here, the access or the sale of spatial data to private parties. If this has been a resolution of the city council, then you have to first be able to take another resolution in the city council, and then you have to be able to defend this to the treasury, saying the town treasury saying that, you used to make profit of this for the town, for the city, but now you're not doing that. So you have to be able to defend that as well. So that's the challenge that we face, to be able to open up that data to you free of charge. And this is something that has to go to the city council and to be, and even at a national level, if that's the resolution of a national level. And like I said, we are not we have noticed that we are not making significant income out of the data that we sell as a municipality in Istanbul, and we thought that such an open data portal would be more beneficial to our academia, our researchers. So I'm checking now for our journeys through the city council for the resolutions. Now, both İlker and I are managing IT departments of the municipalities. We are the units that are actually collecting and processing the data. The owners of that data is someone else. For example, when you talk about the neighborhood border borders, the owner of that data is actually the mapping department of the national government. So in that sense, when we are placing them onto the platform, and saying, we already have this data, we would have given it to you if you'd come to us. That's not so easy to say. We have to organize the regulations behind that, the laws, and have the agreement and open consent and clear consent of the owners of the data as well. So in the first supervision by the state, the inspector came to me and said that everything and anything that's permanent with the state needs to be in writing, he had said. So that's why I say that we have to keep the legislation in control. We have to have the reports and the consents also in writing, everything. So these are the things that are challenging for us from our side as well, because sometimes there are some concerns over physical security. I'm not saying that for your example, but in general, for the data that will be opened up, there's an unbelievable amount of effort on the background, behind the scenes, to be able to open up that data to you. And some of them are very challenging for us as well. But I am sure all these walls will come down one by one, because you cannot really stand against this wave of development. That's very clear for us. And our main objective is really to have the data-driven, rational approach for the local governments management, and open data is a part of that. So, as you also pointed out, and over the next years, we told the citizens that we wanted to allocate a part of our budget in Istanbul to projects from the people. It was very much a keen interest for that. And in 2019, we had the strategic workshop of the municipality, 5-year plans opened up to the public with the citizens of Istanbul. And what the people said to us was that our number one problem is the earthquakes, and only the number two problem is transportation. For that, we saw there that participation, that inclusion of the residents of the city, and when you can listen to them, when we can understand them, we can very clearly see how and where we want to go. Thank you very much, Errol. I do believe your comments included some significant messages for the future as well. So now, since we're here together, I will leave the word finally to Bilal as well. How do you think that open data can contribute to data access and communication in the future? Hello again. When we talk about future, I want to first give an example about the past, maybe as an inspiration for the future. I wanted to find it and share it with you on the screen as you were asking the question. Do you see it on the screen now? Can you see it, Samit? Yes, we can see it. All right. Yes. This is a polar diagram. It's actually a visualization of data. About 1.5 centuries ago, this was an event that was very close to us also. Geographically, those from Istanbul will know Florence Nightingale, also those who are not from Istanbul will know. And Florence Nightingale is the mother of modern nursing, so to say, the profession of nursing. I was sent to Turkey in the War of Crimea and in the First World War. And at the moment that Sultan was Abdulmejid and asked for support and for healthcare services She says can contribute, and she's allocated the army building in Üsküdar for her activities. And she comes here and says that the soldiers who got wounded in the war of Crimea was actually placed here. And she looks at the figures and says, those who were wounded in the war come to this hospital, and that's how this hospital is established. But, we have other people coming to the hospital due to illnesses, regular illnesses. And so she tries to communicate this with letters and with figures, but she cannot, she's not successful. So she turns this into this diagram and sends this diagram to the health care services of the Royal the Royal House. And she also ensures that the hospital also can fight against diseases. So this light blue areas in the diagram is the soldiers coming. It indicates the areas of the soldiers dying in the war due to diseases like cholera or dysentery, and the red is the soldiers wounded due to battle, so to say. So, this causes the first reactions to changing the policies about healthcare in war, so to say. So the reason I showed this is that, data is an enormous source to see what needs to be changed for the future. And it might be striking for everyone to see it in this way. And maybe we might have the chance for a small promotion as an NGO here. We have established an association, Open Data and Technology Association. Those who are listening to me now or will listen to it later who want to work on it or who have concerns over it, who are wondering whether they can do something about it, are welcome to our association as well, or they can access through the website or call us at any time. Thank you for inviting us to be here. Thank you, Bilal, for your presentation. I know that there are still so much to talk about on data, but maybe this might be an introduction to even more comprehensive programs in the future. I would like to thank you all for your participations, Erol, İlker, Can, and Bilal. And I would very briefly like to remind you that in the main room, we will have a program of Ahmet Mümtaz Taylan. And after that, we will have our sessions in the meeting rooms again until the end of the day. Thank you very much for your participation and for your attention. Thank you.